the Nature Positive Dialogues, a series of live sessions and interviews from COP30 in Belém, working with We Don't Have Time in partnership with the Nature Positive Initiative, where we explore the nature, climate, ocean, people connections and how all of these challenges need to be addressed together so that we have a really lasting, sustainable, nature positive future that's good for people, good for the planet and good for the climate. We're joined today by Peter Thomson, who's the UN Secretary General's Special Envoy for the Ocean and also co-chair of Friends of Ocean Action. Welcome, Peter.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Great that you could join us. Thanks so much. And perhaps just to open our conversation, I'd love to ask you, what does ocean positive mean to you?
Yeah, it's obviously a very positive term. It's a good way of thinking. We read about the nature positive, and then we, of course, were keen to see that transferred across ocean positive as well. Here in Belém, I think we're very focused on forests, but we should not forget the fact that Brazil has one of the longest coastlines in the world and has a great treasure trove of coral out there as well. So, as we all know, the threats to coral reefs are daunting. And what's coming off the land into the sea is a big part of the problem. That and, of course, burning of fossil fuels. If the ocean has one message, it is stop burning fossil fuels. But the positive stuff is there, and I'm happy to talk about ocean positive.
That sounds great. Thank you so much. And here we are at COP30 in Belém, where we're hearing quite a lot about this, I think, super inspiring concept of mutirão, which is a Brazilian indigenous concept of seeking collective solutions to common problems. And we've seen a lot of that in action over the last year for ocean action. Could you perhaps speak to some of the amazing progress that we've seen in the ocean space over the last month since the UN Ocean Conference?
Yeah, I think one of the interesting things is that it's now become part of the international dialogue, mutirão. I think we've been talking about it, you and I, back in Friends of Ocean Action days, that nobody can do this on their own. And it's one of the reasons why Friends of Ocean Action brings in private sector, public sector, science. It brings in government representatives and NGOs and all sorts. So the view there, of course, is that we have to bring everything together, that no one sector can do this on its own. And so mutirão has always been part of our thinking. But if you take that down to national and local levels, which I think is where most of the work gets done, especially on the adaptation side, again, it's mutirão is what we need. I come from a rural development background in Fiji, and I know that as hard as we worked to do things like build seawalls and so on, we couldn't do it without sponsors supplying us with the cement and the rebar and things. We just didn't have those resources. So, there's a lot that philanthropy can do. There's a lot that the private sector can do to help local communities. And I hope all around the world that is now happening in that spirit of mutirão.
Yes, and perhaps building on that, could you share some ways that you think the blue economy needs to evolve in a way that is nature positive and sustainable?
Yeah, I mean, if you think of ocean positive, I think most people, when they think of the ocean, think of its victimhood, which is true. I haven't said my mantra today, so I'll say it now: no healthy planet without a healthy ocean, and the ocean's health is currently measurably in decline. Whether it's pollution or acidification or overexploitation, all the indices are bad. And so people know about that. There's greater awareness now than there's ever been before. But how do you balance that with the positive element? Well, one of the things that's very clear to me is that the third UN Ocean Conference, which was held in Nice, co-hosted by France and Costa Rica, that a huge momentum came out of that. There were 60 heads of government present at that ocean conference, and I think well over 100 ministers, and virtually all the countries in the UN were there. So huge momentum. Look what's happened since. We've ratified the BBNJ High Seas Treaty now. We've ratified the first phase of the WTO Fisheries Subsidies Agreement. That's major. We've had the ICJ advisory opinion issued now, which says that member states may be culpable if they do climate change damage. We are preparing for the UN Decade Ocean Decade in Rio in 27, the big conference there, where all the world's scientists get together. You know, ocean science is on a roll, and of course the course is now laid for the UNOC 4 2028 to be held in Korea. So positive things are happening, and all of that translates into the sustainable blue economy, because that's where people get involved. And again, you know, we had a bit of a setback in IMO, but you know, the course is clear that we must green maritime shipping. FAO is clear that sustainable aquaculture with circular food systems is the way of the future for protein and for fisheries. I see the scientific and the economic logic of this green transition, this positive transition towards a renewable energy-powered world, as just unstoppable now. The logic is behind it.
No, definitely. There's so many inspiring, important motivation, progress that has happened that we can all definitely draw inspiration from as we move forward. And as you always remind us, there's no healthy planet without a healthy ocean. Why do you think it's so important to tell those stories of hope in building momentum?
Well, one of the things I say is that believing's bigger than our believing's bigger than our doubt, and I do think that. That's not an optimistic thing to say. That's just a practical thing to say. Because why? Homo sapiens is sort of oriented towards survival, and when the chips are down, be it time of war or plague, we band together and help each other out. That's always been the case, and we've been in a terrible war against nature, and the awareness is there now that we have to make peace. And so I do believe that peace is coming because of that awareness.
Absolutely. And we're here now at COP30, the climate COP. Why do you think it's important to also bring the ocean right to the center of these climate discussions?
Well, I've been advocating for the fact that UNFCCC should have an ocean agenda. I think that time is there now. You know, we've fought so hard to get inside the tent, the ocean community. Eventually we managed to get the Ocean Climate Dialogue set up as an annual event in Bonn. But it's clear from, listening to what happens in plenary that you actually need an agenda item to have everybody addressing it in a serious way. I was very proud that my country brought that up this week. Fiji brought that up in plenary, saying that there should be an ocean agenda in UNFCCC going forward.
No, absolutely. And could I ask you to share, what is your personal motivation, Peter, for being so incredibly committed over many years to ocean action?
Look, it sounds trite, but because I end pretty much every speech with it, but intergenerational justice is what drives me. Why do I say that? I'm not being high and mighty. I have 4 beautiful granddaughters, and I look at the young one who lives with me, a 5-year-old, and I think that, what a 3-degree world would mean for her life, her life, not something way off in the future, her actual life. And what a 2-degree world would mean as well. And I just find that unbearable. So I think that all of us, if we are parents or grandparents, or indeed if we just care about the continuity of the ability to live in a relationship on this planet with nature, which is one of joy and wonder, which we have experienced. If we want that to continue, then we have to do everything we can now, because every slight degree of improvement that we can make is going to be less suffering for them in the future. So as I always say, Tambusoro, Fijian expression, you've heard me say it many times, means no surrender. And as I've already said, our believing is bigger than our doubt. So let's get on with it.
That's fantastic. Thanks so much, Peter. Very inspiring and definitely puts things in perspective. Thank you for joining us. Peter Thomson, UN Secretary General's Special Envoy for the Ocean. And we look forward to our next discussions as part of the Nature Positive Dialogues. Thank you.